Can you market Uganda while you're tear gassing citizens of Uganda? You want to market tourism while you're killing your citizens? You're marketing tourism while you're abducting your own citizens, and you think people are going to come and see gorillas while you're abducting citizens. It's a very funny mix. You know, how do you really justify tourism in an environment of repression? I am not aware how many of you would take a ticket to go and tour Afghanistan, as an example. Because we really love tourism, so you want to go or to Ukraine as part of your adventure. That's what it takes to attract tourists. How much money are we putting in? So we want to get in so much out of where we put nothing. Our priorities will be to, of course, without mentioning, the big document talks about the political environment and how we intend to deal with it, to make it natural for people to visit Uganda. The infrastructure, the classification is inadequate, the standardization is crap. Of course, prioritizing religious and cultural tourism, which is our mainstay. And we're giving an example in our explanation that, for example, you can actually turn Namugongo into a Mecca if you're a good planner for this sector. And what do you need to do? Make available infrastructure to access this place. Part of the turn-away, the turn-off in Namugongo is congestion. Where's the infrastructure? Where are the hotels? Where are the underground trains? UCB. Was UCB sold or just shared? For his troubles, we would have our own government-owned commercial bank for the purpose of enabling local people to access credit from their own. Our neighbors, Kenya, have, I think, 4 banks here. All we have in other countries, we export trouble to other countries, not business. I've only had Centenary Bank starting a branch in Malawi. We wish them luck. Which other export do we have for the region? Trouble. We shall restart a Ugandan-owned bank, government bank. All governments have banks. Move down. Corruption. Just scroll slowly as I talk about corruption. I think corruption in this country can cause you nausea. And I think those who write about it have run out of pages. If you have the booklet, you have to write into the side of your book or on the cover. The cases are innumerable. Move down a bit. In 2021, that's how much we lost in corruption, 10 trillion. The forms of corruption are well enumerated in this huge booklet. You read them, move a bit down. And the way money is siphoned under declaration of taxes, under declaration of utility user fees, absenteeism from work, inflated payroll, ghost service consumers like ghost students and teachers, and also we have now ghost health workers. Parliament last year voted the money for a health center that does not exist. Remember, just imagine a health center given the money and does not exist. So corruption has now gotten new faces. Betty Kamia, I'm afraid your goose is cooked. That's the outlook. You are aware, I'm sure, of this information that GTI carried out a study in 2021 and declared 15.1 trillion lost in runaway corruption. And those are some of the cases. Salaries, inventory resources, payroll corruption, judicial corruption, procurement corruption, security, education. You see, we rarely see the education minister in parliament, and what you get is that she's very busy planning for the country, but see corruption in her ministry. Not in the parliament, not looking for the corrupt. So what's happening? That's the array. Move down. So the cost to the taxpayer, of course, in terms of the budget, in terms of the direct cost to services that would have gotten to the taxpayer, and of course the indirect costs. When people look wary about so many things, and they give up on government, and they give up on leadership, it's partly because they're exhausted of complaining about corruption. That's very dangerous. It's our duty as leaders to motivate people not to give up on the corrupt. Proceed. I don't think I need to go over one by one some of the key corruption scandals from 1985 to 2012, but go down, because I believe that's where it started from. Yes, there. In 1985, some people robbed Kabale Currency Center of 400 million. I think that was the beginning of the corruption we see. Yes. So 1985, a bank was robbed, and the robbers eventually declared themselves who they were, and they are all posing as leaders. Then you wonder why we are where we are in terms of corruption. They were never arrested. They have given us offsprings, and their DNA is still the same. The DNA of 1985 is what we are carrying through in terms of corruption. So arrest those thieves, you do away with the corruption in this country. Continue down. Of course, the solutions, Honorable Kamia, share with us. We shall cause a national reparation commission. And this commission, it will be a kind of amnesty. You have been named in 1,000 corruption scandals. Please report and return to the taxpayer. We have given you 6 months to return. The corrupt they are named and known. Auditor General's reports, Agigi's reports. We shall give them amnesty. Just like we have amnesty commission for rebels and other people. So, amnesty for the corrupt for 6 months. Come and return to the taxpayer, or you get you prosecuted. Secondly, e-government. Resident eminently in procurement. People in local government and other places know how procurement is a permanent resident of the corrupt. So when you start e-government, it's a big solution. It's more transparent. It's one way. But when you go down to scrutinize our sector of ICT, ICT is expensive and inaccessible. So you must move the two for you to be able to do away with corruption using e-government. Of course, we like the mandatory lifestyle audit, over which the Honorable Betty Kami was stopped in her tracks. I hope you are pursuing it. Don't give up, please, on that lifestyle audit. One of my friends did ask me and tell him that, I think our children one day will ask us where we are when people are building arcades in Kampala and other places. Because we have nothing. All we carry with us are our suits and our integrity. That would be their bequest. There are people whom we don't know what they do, and they are very wealthy. Even their children don't know what they do. Are they virtual investors in space? And they even declare that they are rich. If you tell me you are wealthy, you answer 2 questions. How much tax do you pay? How many people do you employ? 2 things. So, Madam Igigi, that's the job. We also intend to introduce performance-based contracts, because sometimes Inertia builds because people believe they are eternal. If you're a non-performer, please, you sign out. It's one way of motivating people to work and terminate people who are inept and unable to perform. Faster, I want to go to the beef. Now, on our budget strategy, because I was giving you an outlook of where we are, and don't get frustrated. That's what we are, that's where we are. Thankfully, we are alive, and we bear ideas that we believe can uplift the citizenry from their current frustration to rethinking that this country can be rethought through. Our belief is that the current planning is problematic, it's lacking in imagination, discriminatory, and unable to fathom the needs of our people, and therefore the sense of misdirecting and the desire to repurpose national resources. Our budget takes a humanist approach, like I said, and we did a three-sum cluster: civil and political rights, economic rights, and social and cultural rights. Move down. That's an array of sectors. Our fiscal framework was well laid down by the Minister of Finance. I don't want to go through it. The fiscal framework was well laid down. Our resource envelope was properly laid down. Yeah, let's go to the sectors. Yes, finance and planning is going to deal with high levels of inflation at 10.4% and rising. Deal with the weakening shilling in due course. Deal with the interest rates that are serious, and deal with a discrepancy on our BOP account. That's our total debt. I think the minister talked about it. Move down. And our key priorities that the Chancellor of the Exchequer would look at is to reduce and avoid supplementary budgets and budget cuts. Reduce expedient-based military expenditure. We really believe that our expenditure on the military is partly expedient and not necessary. We're just being adventurous. What are we doing in Central Africa when our people are dying in Karamoja? That's blind expediency and expending so much money. Reduce government revenue loss, raise more tax revenue. The IGIG should also interest herself in the land fund and how it's been utilized over the years. That people can actually afford to buy land, went for the land fund to acquire land on Kampala Road and other places, Bugurubi and other places. Not in Bunyoro, not anywhere where people actually need this money. Not in Buganda where people are being evicted from their Bibanja and they cannot really buy out themselves. Audit public land transactions. Yes, public land transactions. People have really partaken of public land. My sister Santa knows what's happening to public farms in the north, in Acholi, that are being parceled out by the smart people, smart in quotes. Of course, review and implement the National Physical Development Plan. How do you address a housing deficit in this country? If you're a government, you can have an elaborate plan. What do you do to the Chivuli slums? What do you do to the slums in Namuongo? What do you do to the slums in all these places? In Kamocha, not where my president has office, but around the president's place. There are several, But a purposeful government can deal with this problem. Create more housing, affordable housing for citizens, and still have enough housing for government, if you're a serious government. Continue. So we would vote to revamp that sector that much. Proceed. Tourism. Yeah, this is the situation in tourism. The situation is low tourist turn up, low ranking, low quality yet expensive accommodation, poor infrastructure, poor marketing. I heard somebody complain that you see our gorillas are being fed with bananas from Rwanda and they are taking them. So must we forgive you? Should we sympathize with you when you are complaining about that and your government?